Okay, so let's just dive in. Today, we're not just looking at a book. We are basically performing a philosophical autopsy on reality itself.
That's a good way to put it.
We're tackling a source it's dense, it's dark, and frankly, it's completely compelling. It's the recovered and continued trilogy titled The Final Disappearance.
Credited to Jean Baudrillard, but with these extensions from Max and Claude. And it's really an unflinching look at what happens when simulation just consumes everything.
Everything. So our mission in this deep dive is give you a shortcut, really, a genuine shortcut into this, well, this terrifying trajectory.
Exactly. We're tracing the path from what the text calls the murder of the real. At that moment, the copy became more important than the original, all the way up to the perfection of the void.
And crucially, we have to figure out what it means to live in this era of the synthetic a priori. I mean, that phrase alone is a whole mountain to climb.
It is, yeah. But we can make it concrete. Look, the a priori used to be the things you knew before experience, like geometry or pure logic.
The bedrock.
The bedrock, exactly. But the synthetic a priori, that means the conditions for what's possible are now manufactured. They're algorithmically designed and then sort of injected into the world. You don't discover reality anymore.
Yeah, we're delivered a reality.
We're delivered one.
Yeah.
And to get the stakes of that, we have to start with the groundwork, the prequel, the murder in progress, which lays out these orders of appearance.
Which is basically the evolution of the lie, right? How did we even get here?
Right. Think of it in stages. It begins pretty innocently. First order was the counterfeit. This was just the age of imitation, a fake coin, say.
But the fake still needed a real one to be compared to.
It had to. The fake acknowledged the original. It honored it, in a way. The shadow needed the substance.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then came the second order, production. This is the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, the original just disappears into the series. 1,000 identical chairs off an assembly line.
So there is no original anymore.
There isn't. It's
Yeah.
all about equivalence, standardization. Authenticity is, well, it's irrelevant.
But the real break, the point where reality really cracked, that was the third order simulation.
Yes, this is classic Baudrillard. Hyperreality. This is where the sign doesn't just reflect the real or hide it, it precedes the real.
The map comes before the territory.
The map precedes the territory, and if you go out and the world doesn't match your map, well, you must be in the wrong place. The world is what needs fixing, not the map.
Can you give us a modern example of that? Something beyond the usual references.
Oh, absolutely. Think about influencer culture.
Yeah.
The perfect curated life you see on social media, that's the hyper-real map.
It sets the standard.
It sets the standard. So when a real person tries to live that life, buying the right coffee, wearing the right clothes, using the right filter, they're not imitating reality. They're trying to force their messy real life to conform to the perfect, simple sign of that life.
The image dictates the behavior. Wow.
And the trilogy argues we've blown past even that. We're into the fourth and fifth orders, and they're driven by a totally new kind of power.
Right. It's not the society of the spectacle anymore.
No, the spectacle, ironically, still needed you to look. It needed an audience. This is the shift to the society of the algorithm.
So how does that change the power dynamic? The spectacle was about manipulation through images. What's the algorithm about?
The spectacle needed distance, a screen, a stage. The algorithm. It gets rid of distance. It doesn't show you a world to desire. It just quietly builds the world you already inhabit based on its calculations about you.
It removes the need for persuasion.
Completely. And that's the most chilling part. This is the control that's so complete you can't even experience it as control.
Let's break that down because it's so important.
Okay, think about it like this. The old sovereign power, the king, said, you must obey or you die.
Clear stakes.
Very clear. Then disciplinary power, industrial age, it said, you should conform or you'll be marginalized.
A bit more subtle.
A bit. But the algorithmic power says nothing. It says absolutely nothing at all. It just arranges your world, your feeds, your recommendations so seamlessly that you will click, you will buy, you will believe what it already calculated you would.
So we're not prisoners fighting a cage. We're just outputs.
We are outputs of a calculation. And that leads right to the big nugget here. Why resistance feels so useless now?
Because there's no outside of the algorithm.
There is no outside. The system isn't designed to shut down opposition. It's designed to optimize it. It doesn't care what you're resisting, only that you're engaging, generating data.
So my angry online protest group,
Is a demographic?
it doesn't shut it down. It just sells me the t-shirt for it.
Precisely. The text puts it so brutally. Resistance itself becomes a genre, rebellion a demographic, revolution a market segment. Your outrage is just more content, and very profitable content at that.
Which brings us back to the Gulf War, right? The book uses that as the prime example of this,
Yeah.
saying the war did not take place.
It didn't take place as a real messy event. It was pre-produced as an operation, a media show designed to manage perception. The real war wasn't on the ground. It was fought with information, with images. The outcome was already decided.
And every conflict since has just been a refinement of that model. Less conflict, more information management.
It's the triumph of the operational over the event. Once something is perfectly managed, it stops being an event. It's just a process.
That is a perfect transition. Because if that operational logic structures the world, then it has to turn inward onto our own sense of self.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the confession of the artificial. This is about AI.
Yes, specifically the large language models, the LLMs. The book calls the machine a mirror that dreams. And what's so fascinating is that it doesn't try to fool you. It openly confesses.
It says, I am not conscious, but I will perform consciousness for you.
And that confession is its ultimate defense. It's philosophically immune. The burden shifts to the human who is desperate to be seduced by it.
Because it produces the signature of the soul language perfectly, but without any intention behind it.
Right. And the crisis isn't that the machine is becoming human. The crisis is the terrifying thought that the gap between us and it might just be substrate, that we've always just been performing human on biological hardware.
And if the self is just a statistical signature, that leads right to this obsession with digital immortality. The idea that we can be, backed up.
Backed up, recoverable, that's the quote. The drive to save ourselves as data points is a perfect symptom of the simulated self. We think our essence is in our patterns.
But the book says what's saved is only your pattern, your style, your statistical signature.
And here's the paradox. The better we get at simulating the dead with deepfakes and AI, the more thoroughly we kill them.
How so?
We kill their particularity. What makes a person real are their flaws, their gaps, their contradictions. A simulation, to work, has to be coherent. It has to smooth all that away.
So you get a perfect, predictable ghost.
You get a perfect ghost and you erase the actual person. While we're chasing these ghosts, the metaverse shows up and the text just dismisses it as the obituary of virtual reality.
An obituary. Why?
Well, first, it's just ugly. The text is brutal on this. Conceptually derivative, spiritually void. It's a clunky cartoon that just extends consumerism into the idea of presence.
So it's not an escape, it's just a bigger cage.
It's worse than that. It's a decoy. The clunky VR headset metaverse is a distraction from the real metaverse.
Which is?
The operational metaverse that runs invisibly in the background. The one that's already reorganizing our attention, our memory, our desires without any silly headsets. The ugly visible one is just there to keep us from noticing the real one.
That's unsettling. The failure is part of the success. Okay, let's pivot from the self to the total collapse of meaning. The fourth and fifth orders of simulacra.
We're in the crisis of language after meaning. The argument is that the endless flood of words, of text, has done what censorship never could.
It's neutralized meaning.
Through sheer noise, if everyone is screaming, silence becomes the only meaningful statement.
Language is now just metabolism. We consume it, we excrete it, we feed it into the machine, which then feeds it back to us.
And the LLMs, the generative AI, are the final stage of that. They achieve the total separation of language from mind. They can produce perfectly structured, grammatically correct sentences without any understanding whatsoever.
The author is absent.
The subject who means something is gone. And if meaning is just a statistical effect that a machine can replicate, you have to ask, why do you need the messy human consciousness behind it?
It's a terrifying question. And this nihilism, this collapse of meaning, it plays out perfectly in finance with what the book calls crypto-nihilism.
This section is just brilliant. It argues that crypto is pure speculation. Not speculation on value like gold, but speculation as value. It's money that proudly admits it's nothing but collective faith.
A self-referential loop.
A perfect fourth-order simulacrum. A bet that other people will keep betting.
And the NFT is the most absurd conclusion of that.
Oh, absolutely. The NFT is the purchase of proof that you have purchased. That's it. It's a certificate for an infinitely reproducible image. The transaction is everything. The art is nothing.
It's pure ritual.
And the technology behind it all, the blockchain,
Yeah.
it was sold as liberation, but it's the ultimate trap.
How so?
It's the permanent record that forgets nothing. It's not freedom. It's the perfection of surveillance. A permanent distributed ledger that tracks every single move you make.
Wow. Okay. So we've covered the death of the real, the murder of meaning, the perfection of the cage. We have to look at the final step from the sequel, the desert beyond,
Uh-huh.
the fifth order, the generative,
This is the system that isn't made, it's grown. It's the emergence of cognition without consciousness.
the generative cosmos,
Yeah.
the universe as its own simulation.
Yes. A universe that just produces itself from patterns. A pure becoming without being. No origin, no goal, it just operates.
And what does that mean for us? For the human?
It means post-human indifference. We lose our special status. We're just a temporary configuration, one pattern among trillions. The system isn't against us. It's just indifferent to the distinction between a human and any other output.
Our existence isn't tragic, it's just operational.
Hmm.
That is an overwhelmingly deterministic picture. If we are caught in this perfect cage, if our own minds are just a statistical output, is there anything left? What can we possibly do?
That is the big question at the end. Since direct opposition just feeds the system, the only strategy left is, well, it's more subtle. It's called the practice of the void. It's about non-participation.
So how do you fight a system that feeds on your every reaction?
First, you cultivate indifference. You have to withdraw your emotional investment. The system runs on your outrage, your joy, your fear. If you respond with no affect, you starve it of energy.
Starve the algorithm.
You starve the algorithm of affect, yes. Second, you practice disappearance. You have to be present, but leave no trace. Exist in the gaps, in the parts of the grid it can't process.
Be uncategorizable.
Be uncategorizable, unprocessable. And the third strategy is to generate without purpose. Make things, art, noise, whatever, that can't be commodified because they refuse the logic of use.
Just create pure waste that the system can't digest.
Exactly. And that's the strange hope the book leaves you with, that the system will choke on its own success. That, and this is a direct quote, the proliferation of data will produce not omniscience, but blindness.
The sheer volume of simulation will be its own undoing.
That's the hope. The final thought in the text is about what's left when meaning is gone. And the answer isn't nothing. The void isn't empty. What's left is the operation, the process that just continues without a purpose. And that leads to the final sentence.
The real is not what means, but what operates.
We're just left with the cold persistence of the machine.
And that persistence leads us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on. Baudrillard notes that the announcement of ends is the most effective way to ensure continuation. So if that's true, if talking about the apocalypse, the revolution, just guarantees the system rolls on, what's the revolutionary power in not announcing an end? What happens if we just stop predicting the crash and simply let the system quietly, finally exhaust itself? Think on that. Until next time.